What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today finally getting to some Elden Ring. So had a couple hiccups this weekend. I was planning on getting a whole bunch of videos out, highly edited kind, showing you stuff I found in the game, ways you can get cool weapons, all that kind of good stuff, right? Unfortunately, my daughter broke her leg this weekend on the trampoline, so it kind of put a damper on the whole YouTube thing. But I took some time off work, got about a week off, and just going to be hanging around in the house right now, helping her out. She's got a full cast on and a boatload of doctor's appointments to go to, so nothing else to do but hang around the house and play some Elden Ring and spend some time with the family. So what you guys can expect is, for right now, I'm doing a video on the opening area of Elden Ring, just to kind of give you an explanation on exactly what you're going to see there, what's going on in the story. Not really a detailed guide of any kind. I'm not going to tell you the exact location of everything, pulling up item descriptions and maps. I want to leave that out for a while because I think it's important to allow people time to go find that stuff in the game on their own. But with Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, all these other kind of games, one of the biggest complaints I often see is that people just don't really understand what's going on in the world around them. So I'm going to try to alleviate that by kind of explaining what's going on, some of the mechanics, the differences between like open world and cave dwellings, the things you can expect to find in Limgrave, and subsequently follow on with each area after that. These videos won't be terribly long. Some will be longer than the others. Probably expect Limgrave to be a little bit longer than the rest just because of the size of it and kind of explaining like basic mechanics for the first time that I won't have to cover in other videos. So just wanted to say thank you guys for joining, all 4 of you probably, because I don't get any views. But I hope you guys enjoy the content. I promise I'll kick it up a notch. It'll be more edited, more story-driven, stuff like that. But for now, I'm just enjoying the game, and I'm bringing you the slices that I cut out of that pie as I go along. So hope you guys enjoy it. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll catch you in the video. Till then, take it easy.
The fallen leaves tell a story. The great Elden Ring was shattered. In our home, across the fog, the lands between.
Alright, so this video is not going to be an all-encompassing guide for how to locate and complete everything. Like I said, we're just going to be discussing the basics. So obviously you're going to start off in the tutorial area, and from there you're going to get kicked off into a series of, this is how you attack, this is how you roll, this is how you block, this is how you stealth, yada yada yada. I'm not going to be covering that because it's kind of self-explanatory for everybody. So fast forward past the first tutorial boss where you're probably going to die. You go through the first cutscene, and now you're stepping out into Limgrave. Let's go. Now, for those of you who have never played a Souls game before, this moment could feel pretty overwhelming, especially if you look at the large horse riding enemy ahead of you and decide that it's a good time to try to give him a whirl. You are at this moment free to do pretty much whatever you want, whenever you want to do it. And while that freedom does grant you a ton of benefits and freedom, it doesn't protect you from your own bad decisions. For now, it's best to follow the path that the game lays out in front of you, and heading forward from here, we find our first NPC interaction in the game, Varré. Here we get our first glimpse into our minuscule place in this giant world.
Oh yes, tarnished are we? Come to the lands between for the Elden Ring? Of course you have. No shame in it. Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless. Without guidance, without the strength of runes, and without an invitation to the Round Table Hold, you are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity.
Following this brief interaction with Varré, one couldn't blame you for having more questions than answers. He points out that we are maidenless more than once, and it's a reference to a discovery made much later down the line. He also tells us that as a tarnished, we should follow the path of grace to achieve our destiny, of reclaiming the Elden Ring. Now, we have no real connection to what any of this means at this point, and his word salad is more of a foundation of terminology that will become more familiar soon. But for now, I want you to take 3 things from this conversation. First, we are insignificant in every sense of the word. Second, our path will be laid out before us through Grace's guidance. And finally, on the cliffs above Limgrave lies Stormvale Castle, home to Godric the Grafted. Now from here, we can do just about anything. Go just about anywhere. North, south, east, west. Pick a direction and you can go there. Just be aware that there is a recommended path that will make your journey into the lands between much, much easier. And it's a short distance from where we met Varré. So heading due north and avoiding our golden horse friend, we eventually arrive at the church of Elleh, whatever. This is going to be our first foothold in the realm of Limgrave. Located here with us is our first merchant, who's going to offer us some tips and unique items to aid us in our adventure. Most notably, the crafting kit. This is going to enable you to create things such as arrows and fire bombs on our journey that are going to make the first few hours much, much easier. Elden Ring is a lot different than Dark Souls. Vendors don't just sell you all your items, you can actually make them on your own now, which is a welcome change. So after resting at our first site of grace, which essentially doubles as a bonfire from Dark Souls, for those of you who have never played Dark Souls, these are going to be your respawn points where you refill your healing items, you refill your health, and you can level up. But we are introduced to our second inhabitant of the Church of Elleh, Melina, or Melina. Whatever.
Greetings, traveler from beyond the fog. I am Melina. I offer you an accord.
Melina will fulfill the role of our missing finger maiden for the time being, offering a way for us to convert the runes that we find in the open world into levels for our chosen stats. She also provides us with a ring to summon the spectral steed Torrent, who is the real reason I recommend coming to the church immediately. Elden Ring borrows a lot from the previous Souls games in terms of combat, speed, and lore, but the one area that differs greatly is the open world which you find yourself in now. Torrent will be your means to explore this gigantic world, and after an hour or so getting used to him, you'll find that not only is he a necessity for traversing the world, but also a vital aspect of open world combat.
Then it's settled. Summon me by grace to turn runes into strength. Ah, another matter. I bequeath to you this ring. Use it to traverse great distances. It will summon a spectral steed named Torrent. Torrent has chosen you. Treat him with respect.
Now from here, you are truly free to explore. There are no right or wrong answers here, and I encourage you to take a dive into the immediate area around the church while avoiding our horse foe for the time being, of course, and familiarize yourself with combat in Elden Ring. Depending on your class, the beginning of Limgrave can be very easy or relatively hard. I decided for my first playthrough to go at it as the Wretched, sorry. I don't recommend this for a new player though, because while it does offer the widest left and right limits for upgrades, you start without any armor and boast a large club as your means of getting things done. If I had to give a recommendation for a new player, I would send you off into the world with the Vagabond class. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the strength characters in most Souls games, but, and this is my opinion, this is the easiest way to break through the feeling of dread in your first few hours of the experience. From the church, I decided to head north and practice our newfound ability of stealth. Now, this isn't Sekiro. so don't expect Sekiro. The enemies here are soldiers who have been abandoned by their lords, now roaming the wilds. They make good practice dummies to work out the ins and outs of stealth, which are incredibly basic. Using the tall grass and their poor line of sight, you can sneak around, getting comfortable with the game, and gathering some much needed experience and equipment along the way. After clearing the enemies in the wilds, we approach our first encampment. Now there's an item here that unlocks some pretty powerful abilities that we're going to need to find. This also gives us another chance to practice some of our stealth abilities, which is great because my first character is going to be a dexterity and arcane mix that focuses on stealth and bleed damage. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I don't know. Taking our time here and trying to remain as quiet as you can with a huge club as a weapon, we clear all the enemies and head underground where we find the whetstone. The whetstone is an item that will be used for your entire playthrough. Honestly, I'm pretty shocked that they hid such an important item here in the world because I could 100% see someone completely missing it. And trust me, the combat arts that this items allow you to place on weapons is not something that you're going to want to play without. Let's take a moment to talk about the realm of Limgrave and what is going on with it. The story of Elden Ring involves a war between the demigods who have each claimed a piece of the now shattered Elden Ring. Each piece of this ring gives power to its owner, and all the little gold pieces that you find throughout the world are actually pieces of the Elden Ring. The largest pieces are the ones that these lords have. Now these powers have allowed each demigod enough, power to defend themselves from each other's attempts to claim all the pieces for themselves, but it hasn't granted any of them the ability to claim all of the shards for themselves. Basically, they have fought each other into an uneasy, peace-filled stalemate. Each holding one piece of the shard, none holding all of them. Each lord retains his or her piece of the land, and their power is reflected in the state of the lands that they hold dominion over. And Limgrave is no exception. The demigod who rules here is known as Godfrey the Grafted, and Godfrey shares the blood of Margit, the original ruler of the lands between. But you'll find out later on that his blood is of a distant relation and therefore is known as one of the weaker heirs of the shards. He compensates for this fact through his brutal personality and the fact that he grafts the limbs of fallen soldiers and champions to his body, consuming their power in an attempt to enhance his own presence in the world. He has completely forsaken the people who reside outside the castle, and out here in the wilds we see a lawless and treacherous land. Giants roam freely, attacking those who would get too close. The tombs of the Tarnished are defiled by undeath, a true slap in the face to the guidance of grace. The world here is truly shattered like the Elden Ring.
Chieftain of the Badlands, the ever-brilliant Gold Mask. Fear, the deathbed companion, the loathsome dung-eater, and Sir Gideon Othmere, the all-knowing.
In chaos, there is opportunity, however, and this lack of attention from the ruler allows us the freedom to explore and empower ourselves in these lands. Here we discover a handful of caves, each with their own minor stories and creatures, and at the end of each, a mini-boss who allows us to claim a powerful item for our use. For example, we find the Erdtree Burial Watchdog guarding the tombs of those who have passed on and are re-entering the Erdtree again. Their path guided by grace, ending here at the roots of the trees. This mini-boss is a great introduction to the mini-bosses that we will uncover later on in these tombs, but we are also given a glimpse into the way things are supposed to work. The Erdtree serves as the foundation for the life cycle of the world. When you're alive, you are guided by grace, granted to you by the Erdtree, and when you die, you are returned to its roots, seemingly recycled through the tree back into the life cycle. This watchdog guards that process and is definitely a tough opponent to take on with no armor and a club. Exploring these caves around the world is highly beneficial, and while some may seem difficult at first, I found them all to be relatively scaled to be accomplishable at your starting level. This balance of difficulty fits the Souls mantra because while it can be a challenge to complete, The feeling of accomplishment when you finally do clear one cave is immense. And with each small victory, your confidence going into the next is matched only by the experiences that are gained within. Let's take a break from the deep and dark places of the world and venture out onto the surface. Limgrave has a plethora of areas and activities lying in wait, begging to be discovered. If you are brave enough to go slogging through the wilds to achieve them, you're going to have a great time. And a rough time. Here we find the soldier outpost filled with guards patrolling, oftentimes guarding some loot. Elden Ring is definitely an open world action RPG, and these moments of exploration and reward clearly show the relationship between those two principles. Stick to the main path and you will be rewarded with what the game decides you need to finish. Go off into the wilderness and you may find something that you couldn't imagine playing without. Or you could find all of your progress and precious runes lost as you respawn at a site of grace. Every choice is a door here in Elden Ring, and what is behind them is often surprising. Let's talk about the scale of Limgrave and the layout overall. Now for this video, I'm going to be including most of my Stormveil Peaks footage as part of Limgrave, but I'm going to halt the story progression just as we achieve a foothold into the castle. Believe me, the castle deserves its own video. Limgrave is very much a classical city on the hill, where as you look up, you can see the massive Tree dominating the sky, with the only other object even remotely close in scale being the castle. You can tell that those who live above and those that dwell below are an entirely different breed. Now in the center of Limgrave, we have a large, shallow lake where we find a dragon-worshipping cult. These enemies are weak and occupied with chants to their dragon god Elleh. At their ruined outpost, you can find my weapon of choice, however, the twin blades. That's right, aside from my bleeding daggers, my weapon of choice for exploration will be this dexterity-driven cleaver until I find something that scales better. It just looks so cool. I mean, how could you be a dex build and not rock the twin blades? Anyway, back to the dragon. Once the cultist camp is clear, we venture out into the water carefully, not trying to draw the attention of the massive crabs here. Yeah, the crabs are back, so be prepared for that. In the center of the lake, we are introduced to the dragon god himself, and it's here that I'm going to talk about the newest addition to Elden Ring, horse combat. Now while I'm sure it's possible and there most likely exists an easy way to kill this behemoth on foot, for me it only made sense to take this engagement as a mounted experience. Darting in and out while slicing with my twin blade or daggers really suited the fast-paced and heavy-hitting strikes of the dragon, while allowing me to return to a safe distance to avoid his fire breaths. Torrent really evens the scales in these large open-world boss fights. The fact that armor weight doesn't matter while mounted means that even a knight in the game's heaviest armor, wielding the heaviest greatsword, has the same movement speed as my soon-to-be bandit character does. Now while you couldn't be blamed for saying this is a little unbalanced, especially for our strength boys out there, it doesn't really matter because this is your character and your experience. Horse combat is just as good for you as it is for anyone else. Remember, exploration is a one-man or one-woman show, so don't try to wargame it too much. Zipping in between the legs of these larger-than-life foes is exhilarating, and those moments where you land a strike and zip out just in the nick of time are just as thrilling as the perfect roll or parry when on foot. And most importantly, it makes you feel equal to your enemy. Sure, he may be a 5,000-pound dragon who breathes fire and also flies, but I can outmaneuver him, and as long as I can play my cards right, I will always have that advantage. Killing the dragon here yields us a dragon heart, and with this item, we get a chance to talk about one of the harder areas to find in Limgrave, the Dragon Temple. Hidden at the back of the Oceanside Cave is an opening to an island off the coast to the west. Here is an abandoned and ruined temple with a large deceased dragon hanging over an altar, hence the Dragon Temple. Offering the dragon heart here will enable the purchase of a new magic, the dragon magic. Breathing fire or summoning claws to deal with your enemies sounds fun and will definitely be an addition for a subsequent playthrough, but for now, I'm focused on my lowly wretched becoming a nimble, dexterous bandit. Now there's no time like the present to discuss the initial roadblock that we encountered when we stepped into Limgrave, the Tree Sentinel. I've seen some pretty awesome videos where people take this guy down in some very creative and fun looking ways. Definitely something I'm going to have to attempt on my next go around. For me though, I pumped some extra points in my vitality and dexterity, hopped on Torrent and decided to take him down on horseback, pretty much exactly how I did the dragon. This time we are on even ground, so the fight was fairly intense. Instead of talking about the fight, however, I want to address something that I've seen people talking about on the internet. I've heard the topic brought up that Elden Ring is just too damn hard. I can't get past the very beginning of the game. The game doesn't give me any directions, and shit like that. So for those of you who may be heading into this genre of gaming for the first time, let me explain something to you. In a Souls game, when you hit a roadblock, that is the game giving you directions. It's saying, hey buddy, don't go there. Go somewhere else until you're strong enough to be here. Now it's not just going to tell you to go left or go right or, like in this case, around the enemy. It's just going to keep killing you until you get the message that you are not supposed to be doing this right now. It harkens back to the days in Dark Souls when I was running into the damn cemetery with the skeletons. I did that for what must have been 5-6 hours before I finally got the hint to look somewhere else. I don't think it can be considered a coincidence that the Tree Sentinel, who is made 1,000 times easier with the addition of a horse, is located right in front of the temple where you get your horse. Sure, you can attempt him a few times just to test your hand, but in general, if I spend 30 minutes dying to a boss in these games, I'm coming back later. And that's as someone who has played every Souls game to completion, every DLC, beaten Bloodborne countless times, and I tackled Sekiro to a platinum with 5 playthroughs, charmless with a demon bell, no HUD. Now that all doesn't mean anything to you, and that's fine. It wasn't a point to brag. I just want you to understand that this game is not Zelda or Skyrim. It is an open world Dark Souls. You may be traveling along just fine, handing countless mobs their ass for hours on end, and then boom, a mini boss that isn't supposed to be defeated until the end of the game pops up and buries your skull in the ground. That doesn't mean keep letting him smash you to pieces. It means keep enjoying your game and come back to him later. Now I understand his mindset is geared toward the open world and the main story bosses are a little bit different, but don't worry, I got you covered there as well. But first, let's jump into some NPC interactions. Limgrave has a wide variety of NPCs that you're going to interact with. Some are just merchants that give you optional starter gear to buy. Some are hidden secrets that I don't want to spoil, even though every Elden Ring video I've seen on YouTube is spoiling it for you. I mean, seriously people, can we just let some shit be a secret? But aside from the merchant NPCs, you have character-driven NPCs like Melina, who will visit you frequently during your travels in Limgrave. She's attempting to fill that maiden role for you, and in doing so is offering you guidance and advice as you traverse the lands. She continues to point your compass up towards Stormveil Keep in all of your conversations.
There is but one other thing I can do to offer you guidance. I can take you to the Round Table Hall, gathering place of tarnished champions, guided by grace.
Now, as with most Souls games, we don't yet know the motivations or intentions of any NPC. Melina could be a replacement for our long-lost Firekeeper girls from the past. Or she could be full of mischief and grief, just to throw it at us later down the line when she kills all the NPCs that we've gathered. We simply can't know at this point, and she sure as hell ain't telling us.
Yet can offer no guidance. I am no maiden. My purpose was long ago lost.
I'll get into the story of the Finger Maidens in a later video when we discover why we don't have one with us, but for now just know that Melina seems pretty cool and we should probably just trust her guidance until she fails us. Aside from the merchants and story NPCs, we also have our attribute and ability vendors. What I mean here is that during your playthrough, you're going to find NPCs with quest lines and stories associated with them, while also acting as a merchant for your character archetype. For example, Fea or Fia, we find in the ruins to the east of Limgrave. She has been expelled from the study of glintstone magic in her university-style studies, and now has exiled herself to the dark corners of Limgrave. I'm sure there's a quest line in which we can upgrade her wares that will present itself later on, but as of now, she is our only source of glintstone sorcery to be heard of. Expect to see these NPCs as you progress, and in order to upgrade their wares, deliver them items that they need. Obviously, some of these are not going to get used, but it's always fun to do these quest lines because you never really know what comes from them. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Yuria, Lord of Hollows, for the win. Now it's time to head up into Stormvale. I know I haven't covered everything in Limgrave, and believe me, that's on purpose. I plan on doing deeper lore guides and such in the future, but for now I'm just trying to give you the basics of the story and where you are in the world at each section. I'm also still playing the game, so let me figure out what the hell's going on and then I'll brief you. I also think that Limgrave is one of the coolest opening segments of a game that I've seen, and if you are in the 1% of the world who for some reason doesn't plan on playing Elden Ring, well, it won't bother you too much to leave some surprises out there for those who eventually will. Oh, and one small note before moving on. Any exploration you do in this game, make sure you do the same thing at night. The world changes at night, and some of those changes involve some very interesting bosses that only come to life in the dark. But be prepared, the monsters at night are a step up from those that you find during the day. Alright, you've been warned. Now as we step up into the hills of Stormvale, we see that the wind has picked up dramatically. Throughout the area, we will find storms have set in and lightning is striking in some places repeatedly. The enemies here are only slightly more difficult, but for the most part, we have the same mixture of caves, and outposts, and mini bosses around the area to explore. The most important person to find here is Bernal. Bernal is one of those NPCs who sells abilities, and he sells weapon arts. These are crucial to Elden Ring, and you're going to want to learn this system inside and out. Let me explain. Each weapon comes with a weapon art that makes it special in some sort. A regular dagger comes with the ability to sidestep around to the backside of a boss, or a regular enemy. The scimitar allows you to do wild strikes, swinging the blades in rapid succession, and potentially causing bleed damage that, if you have the ability put on, will stack with both weapons. The katana has a quick draw ability that hits like an absolute bus, and some shields come with the ability to parry. Now these are very basic examples of weapon arts, and there are some truly incredible examples that you're going to find later in the game. But for now, Bernal is going to sell a very important art to you, and that is the art of no art. Yeah, no art is an art. The ability to remove an art from a weapon or shield can be an art in and of itself. The reason why you want this is because when you're holding a shield that has a parry, then you cannot use your weapon's combat art because your default combat art will automatically be parry. By selecting the no parry combat art, your default combat art now becomes whatever that main weapon is. I know it sounds confusing, just buy it, put it on a shield. It'll make sense once you try it out, okay? I prefer to use the buckler to parry with my twin blades, but if I ever need a medium shield to tank some damage behind and I'm not going to parry, I remove the ability to parry from my default combat art and revert it back to my twin blades, so that when my shield is equipped and I have the benefit of using my favorite weapon with the shield at the same time. It may seem confusing, but just trust me, all the arts are fun to mess around with, so get to know them, experiment, get out there and kill some mobs. It's even hard to explain because it doesn't make sense like verbally, but just know that you can clear out a combat art by using the no art. Okay, I'm done with this topic. Once you're satisfied with your journey in the outside of Limgrave, it's time to put your big boy pants on and head into the keep. Obviously, it's pretty well defended, but I'm done talking about regular enemies. Use stealth, use your combat arts, get good. Let's talk about what every scrub on the internet has been complaining about. Margit the Fell.
Foul tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition. Thy flame. Let it be Margit the Fell.
going to go ahead and say it. Margit the fella is not a very hard boss. And for reference, I killed him at around level 14 with very few upgrades and fuck all for gear. I started off as a wretched, so I didn't have any fancy samurai stuff to run with. Instead, what I had was patience. And that's what I want to talk about. Why people don't have patience in Elden Ring. Now in this game, the open world can be dominated. You have torrent, which equals speed. You can run away or avoid enemies altogether. And for the most part, you're in control of every encounter. Here in front of Margit, you're at his mercy. Spamming your attack button here will not only get you killed, but it'll get you Donkey Kong. Instead, you're going to have to learn the mechanics of combat. Margit is difficult for a lot of people because for every good idea that you seem to have in the fight, he has a counter that ruins that idea. Try and bait out his leaping attack so you can roll back. He follows up with his little dagger to poke you as you get close. Figure out his combo and how to dodge the 5 hits he's been giving you for the last hour. Well, now he hits you with a 9-hit combo and you're back to square one. And then finally, at 50% health, all hell breaks loose and he whips out his golden hammer, and now you have 5 more combos to deal with. It seems like a lot, like a whole lot. But let me tell you something. You can do this. Your first few attempts shouldn't be kill attempts as a new player. You should be learning the timing on a roll to avoid a very particular slash. Once you get that down, start practicing rolling into him instead of away. That way you can get a free hit on the next roll. Start learning these downward swing timings for parry opportunities. Trust me, 2 parries will crush his health pool if you can just get them off. Take the time to learn which attacks your shield can handle and which ones you need to roll through. And after you master those, figure out how many blows you can safely land without sacrificing all your stamina so that you're ready to roll out of the way again. Boss fights in Elden Ring require you to remove the cool horse gameplay and the exploration tidbits and instead focus 100% on 3 things: dodging, blocking, and parrying. These are the only 3 mechanics that matter now. Learn to separate the open world from the boss arenas and you will soon come to the understanding of one very hard truth. Elden Ring is not an open world RPG. It is a Souls game with an open world. You can explore all you want. You can venture out into the wilds, kill enemy mobs, pick all the flowers you want. At the end of the day, there are very specific boss in very specific orders that you are going to have to kill, regardless of what you do in the open world. So think of that as like a supplement to the game, not the game itself. Now as far as balancing goes, I kind of agree. Margit does seem to be a little on the rough side as far as tuning goes. Some of you might say that every Souls game has a difficult opener, and you're right, and I agree to some extent, but there is a large difference between a Silent Demon and Margit. Luckily, with some exploration, you can find a merchant out in the world who sells a unique item that, when combined with summoning your allies, which I try not to do at all, should make the fight much more manageable. And that brings me to my last point. There is nothing wrong with using summoning or friends or anything like that at all. Don't let some weirdo on the internet make you feel bad for summoning an NPC or a buddy to help you out. Fuck those guys who say that means you aren't good. This is a game. Don't let it become unenjoyable because of one boss you can't seem to beat. Overall, I think Limgrave was an incredible opening zone with an incredible opening boss. If I had to place it in comparison with the other Souls areas, I would say first place goes to Central Yharnam, second probably Undead Burg, just for the effect, and then Limgrave right behind them. The open world is obviously something that we've never seen before, but nothing I've ever played has had a better feel than Central Yharnam. So if I had to score it, I would say a solid 8 out of 10, with Yharnam being a really solid 9 out of 10, only shy of 10 because frame rate issues and stuff. Seriously, FromSoft, a fucking Bloodborne upgrade on the PS5 would be money. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, thanks for joining. I know it's been a while since I did one of these videos. My last video was like a 7-hour Sekiro video and only like 50 people watched it, so probably won't be doing any more of those. But I hope this one is in length enough for you guys to enjoy it without getting overwhelmed by the length. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you want to see in Elden Ring, and just tell me how your experience is. You know, I think it would be interesting to see how you guys are doing in comparison to me. So for just a brief record, I am running a wretched build. Right now I have 25 dexterity, 25 vitality, 20 arcane, and I think 20 endurance, and those are the only skills that I've leveled up. So let me know where you're at in the game, and let me know how you're doing, okay? Catch you guys on the next one. Try to keep them twice a week, 3 times a week maybe on these longer videos with some shorter ones in between. All right, thanks for joining, guys. Take it easy.
Foul tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition.